So I put this on the agenda because of obvious pushback from the town for grant funding at the ballot box and at the town meeting. And so if we're going to do a sewer project, it's got to be done by grant money. And so there are several sources of grant money. And one is the Mass Works grant. And, you know, you can get between, what, $2 and $5 million for that. But you need a partner. And then there's the senatorial CDS, and we were rejected for that last year. But you might remember, we do have a $1 million CDS from Representative Keating, which comes with a string attached, a big string that we need to have local funding of $220,000 to use that. And then there's this third thing is new.
One question on that.
Well, let me just introduce these, then we can talk about them. The third thing is a new $2 million authorization that was put in the infrastructure bond bill that passed Beacon Hill about November 20th, just before Thanksgiving. And Senator Michael Roderick's put a $2 million authorization specifically for Route 6 water and sewer in that authorization. And so, you know, that's another possible source. It's not money in the bank. It's not cash like the $1 million ARPA. It's something that's got a lot of strings attached. But so those are the three things that you know I see: the Mass Works, the CDS, and then this new $2 million earmark in the infrastructure bond bill. So those are the three things I'd like to talk about. And Mr. Chairman, you had a comment.
Yeah,
On
the first part, when you're talking about what the town's match or whatever you're calling that would be, now can that be used for, you know, like the commercial customers that we're looking to partner with is a contribution on their end?
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, if they did a contribution, but, you know, you're looking at $200-some thousand, so we would probably have to go the betterment route. I don't know if, unless the group can raise.
I know Swansea was very successful in doing exactly the same thing that we were trying to do. And I had talked to Senator Rodericks about that, and he did say he was working with them at the same time he was working with us, and they actually got it pushed through. They've already installed manholes in the intersection after the Venus de Milo, which would be a similar scenario as what we got going on, and they are, Mass Highway was getting ready to pave that intersection under a contract, so they added that work into that Mass Highway contract and got it built. They're actually working on it right now. They're gonna break ground, and they have a $21 million sewer project, which is kind of like a mirror image of what we had, and they will be installing that in the spring all the way up to the Swansea Mall, to Route 118. So maybe we need to reach out to, you know, where Steve's going and see how we can navigate those waters and try to not be tangled up in the gear, as you say, the strings.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got on that.
So they did something similar to what we did, right? They went for betterments.
Commercial betterments.
They have
so
more commercials,
right.
Properties in that area, so that whole section that's being funded by the town is being funded through betterments.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're looking, you know, in phase one, that's what our idea was, and, you know, I know that you're leaving us now, Steve, but that was your project, phase one sewer. So if we can give us some help on how we can navigate that and keep it going. I mean, my thing is the $2 million, if we could, you know, Maury's got some input from some of the businesses that, you know, Edgewater needs a septic. So
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of the partners in there have reached out to me. One of them's reached out to Maury. So that's three of them with an interest. And they were looking what they needed to do if they could run the sewer to where it goes themselves. So, I mean, they were willing to run sewer main like White's did, bringing it in, and similar to what Swansea did with the Venus back in the day. I'd like to just add one more thing on the Swansea deal is, Somerset presently doesn't have the capacity to take all of it, and they're working on redoing their plant. We're very fortunate, where Fall River has all the capacity, and as far as infrastructure goes, all we have to take care of is the infrastructure in our town, which is big, when all these other towns are getting pushed with having the upgrade sewer treatment plants. Dartmouth does, Somerset does, New Bedford does, we don't. Fall River's already undertaking a major renovation of their plant, and we're included in all those calculations. So it's kind of a win for us.
Okay, so that, as far as the Keating $1 million CDS, if we have to come up with 220,000, the betterments might be one way to go. The other possibility would be to realize we've got $3.5 million in free cash this year, and we could maybe try to get town meeting to allocate that, but you might not want to touch town meeting with a 20-foot pole, I don't know. But Mass Works is something that we have applied for twice, got refused twice, and the main reason we got refused was because we did not have a development partner working with us. But we have one in the wings, which is Bristol Pacific. Now, Bristol Pacific owns the two Edgewater apartment buildings, and they also own that defunct transportation building on Borden Street. And that building has enough property for a third Edgewater apartment building, plus a small office building. And Bristol Pacific and the Carrick family have owned that for, I guess, 7 or 8 years now. I talked to Bob Carrick this afternoon, and he was at the town meeting that voted down the articles related to the water project. And he said then, Bristol Pacific really started focusing on a couple of projects in Fairhaven, but he does have a site plan, and he said he would brush off a site plan, and maybe we can start talking about it. Mass Works has to be filed in June. The planning board files Mass Works applications, and we have 6 months to work with him on that if you want to. He realizes the complexities, there's zoning issues, but he also could go for half the project and just do the office building. And of course, he's very interested in a Mass Works grant, and he has explored, private financing like the LaFrance family did with White's and their complex of buildings there. They just struck a deal with Fall River, but they're contiguous to Fall River, so it was easier for them. Borden Street, where the transportation property is a little bit further in, but I think Bob Carrick is very much willing to work with us. He's willing to dust off his site plan, and I'm encouraging him to bring it into the planning board, with Jim. He's well aware of Jim's expertise in this kind of work. So you're the planning board guys.
So I think we have several people along the whole corridor that are very interested.
Well, but this Mass Works grant, if we can get a couple million from Mass Works with Bristol Pacific as a development partner, that's what I'm thinking about now. It's a baby step, admittedly.
Right.
We've got other people for four more projects, right, in that, you want to call it contract one, that's fine, in that contract one area. But, I think we could start with that one. And so that's, and Bob, Carrick seems interested in moving forward and maybe brushing off the site plan that he has for that property and bringing it into the planning board and seeing what you think. He also mentioned something called a special permit. Does the planning board issue special permits?
Yes, for some things.
Okay. So that's beyond my area of expertise, but you are the guys, so.
Well, I think that's something we should explore. I mean, the cost is roughly, let's say, $6 million. And, you look at the pieces that are possibilities. So there was something in the bond bill. We've got the direct congressional spending from Representative Keating. we need to do some match, but, and maybe the free cash could be used there. And then, you know, MassWorks in the 2.5, MassWorks in the 2.5 range are possibilities. But we've got to put together a package of job creation out of that, and development creation out of that.
So we also have, as, you know, Mid-City came before the select board and transferred their license. So a company, Advanced Recycling Technologies, has purchased Mid-City, and they are actually moving forward now with, Titan Bond was their LSP, Mid-City's LSP, so Titan Bond's just finished all stuff up. They've moved forward and they're gonna contract with SciTech Environmental, which isn't, they were affiliated, but they were not part of SciTech. They went to CEC, and Jeff Souza's gonna become their LSP, and they're looking to update the whole facility. And they have a very big interest in recycling their water and being connected into the sewer system.
Yeah, Manny, after you talked to me about that operation, I looked up the time that the new owner came before the Board of Selectmen, and his name is Stephen Bissotti.
Yes.
And he has been running this company for a couple of years. He went out on his own, but before that, he had a long career with Covanta. And Covanta owns CMAS,
Yep.
the waste-to-energy facility in Wareham. So he knows this area. And also, one of the things he wants to do with the dust or the soot or whatever residue is left after the waste-to-energy is burnt and generates electricity, he can recycle that, and he can mine it for minerals and whatnot. And so he's well aware of this technology, and he's well aware of this area. And he's, his plant now, his company now is actually in New Jersey, right?
Yes. Well, I know he lives in New Jersey, and that's where.
Yeah. Well, his main company now, and I forget the name of it, I wrote it down someplace, but I don't have it right in front of me, is in New Jersey, but he's well aware of this, you know, South Coast area, and that's probably why he was able to know about Mid-City and buy it. But he seems like a very serious entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yep. So maybe he's on board. You know, the others are, you know, Monaco Investments that bought the old motel
Yes.
and renovated the 15 units that was there. And then Costa Management, you know, Eddie Costa and his son are interested in redeveloping, I think, the smaller shopping center. And then, you know, there's, you know, Meatworks, which needs, you know, needs to connect to sewer for reasons of operational efficiency. Because as I think we all know, they have two kinds of effluent, one from the toilet and the sink, and that goes into a regular septic system. But the second effluent is the cleanup water that they have to clean down or wash down the slaughter room every time they slaughter. And so that has to be physically trucked to the Fall River treatment plant at great expense. So there's a number of, Mid-City is just the latest. So Mid-City is number 5, actually, on the list of commercial developments that are a potential for that stretch, that very short stretch of Route 6. So.
And you also have the Cleanway property adjacent to your property, which John's looked into. He wants to do something with that, and they're just waiting on sewer and water, you know, I mean.
Is that on Sanford Road?
It's right on Route 6, right on the side of where Joe owns his one of his bus depots.
And you're in that Phase 1 area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Is Cape Way still there?
Cape Way?
What did you call it?
Cleanway.
Oh, Cleanway, I'm sorry, okay.
Cleanway sold his business, and, the dumpster business to Win Waste. And he still has the property where he operated.
Okay.
He's looking to redevelop.
And is that on Sanford Road? Route 6, okay.
It's right on the side of facility.
Okay, but,
It's almost across the street from Porter's, the restaurant.
They have like Aprovides blocking
okay.
Yeah.
stuff behind it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All righty. So anyhow, there's all these, projects that are possible, and so contract one is for economic development, and it's not really an environmental project, it's not really a clean water project, it's an economic development project. But, new build can increase tax revenues and loosen a really tight budget. And so that's one of the good parts about economic development.
Well, I can kind of disagree a little bit. It is economic development, and that's the benefit of it, but it was like when Corin from Buzzards Bay Coalition came in, it's still, by running the sewer and the water. I
Yeah.
mean, we have all those other, we have the public health, and we have the environment. The sewer is what's gonna take care of the environment.
If it went to Mid-City Steel, would the number 3 pump station have to get put in, or would that run off too?
What,
Two.
so Sanford
Think about
Road's on
that,
a hill, and it's gravity from Sanford Road down toward Fall River. But the other stretch entails that second pump station in front of Meatworks, right? So I don't know the lay of the land well enough. Jim, can you answer that question?
Yeah, it's-
So the Mid-City Steel in the section west of Route 88 would be the second pump station.
Right.
The other side, the other plant near your property would be, you would need additional pump station for that.
What you're referring to is the Mid-City, new steel building?
Yes.
No, the
Across from
stuff
Dunkin'
that-
Donuts.
It's the yard.
The yard.
Oh, the.
The old drive-in
further
property.
down.
Yeah. But what happens after that? So from Meatworks, so the third pump station that was gonna be like where Wind Water
Is
is.
it bread and cheese?
Right, the bread and cheese Brook one, but from the, how far does gravity go out of that last pump station at Meatworks? There a gravity line?
The gravity ends at Meatworks.
The gravity is coming from the top of the hill, running down to that pump station, then that's where it ends.
Because the state's gonna cut the hill out of there on Sanford Road. That's getting cut out, that's in the blueprints.
A spring under there, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we should, Mr. Chair, maybe we should just clarify, because we were talking about the Mid-City property. Might be a little confusing for people listening to us later.
Right.
They got two, the old drive-through and they got the new building. Were the one you're talking about specifically, or we're talking about both of the Mid-City properties?
No, so Mid-City, so this Stephen Basadi that is the CEO of the new Mid-City Scrap.
Right.
So he purchased that facility from the Gitlins. The Gitlins still own the new steel, and the Gitlins still own
The old drive-in?
new steel annex, yes, at the old drive-in. And that's the property that we're talking about, that Cleanway owns and Joe owns.
Okay.
And there's another parcel right in the beginning of that that's
Yeah,
just being used
it's
for
leased to
storage.
the electric company or something.
Yeah.
Verizon, one of these companies.
Yeah, I think it's just a staging area for the.
Yeah, but I don't know who owns it.
Yeah.
But Mario, I think exploring, with Bob Carrig and others, what are their plans? Are their plans likely to move forward? If they could move forward with the sewer, then we can add that to the argument we would make in seeking the MassWork grant. And that's, as you know, because you sat in on the debriefings, because we didn't have an economic development partner, even though the project itself qualified.
Well, Bob Carrig told me two things. Number one, he was at the town meeting that rejected
Yep.
the lending. And so he and Bristol Pacific started moving toward these two projects in Fairhaven.
Of course.
But on the other hand, he is willing to dust off the site plan that he has for redevelopment of the old transportation property and come in and talk.
We should
We
encourage him
should
to
do that, yeah. Well, I said I'd get in touch with him after the holidays.
Planning board would be open to that.
Good.
No, they want to move forward because they also own Edgewater.
Yep.
The septic at Edgewater's at the end.
Yep.
They're spending, I think he said 70,000 a year in maintenance on it, and it's got to be replaced. So that's spurring them to want to redevelop the other one. they were actually looking is, what's it gonna take us to install a sewer from Edgewater themselves to run it down the road? So they are up for any number of options that we could push in their direction. They will definitely be partners with us.
So I think we have a partner there. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Sooner is better than later, but.
You know, it is also possible to do a smaller portion of the work. The gravity sewer to the top of the hill and in the big pumping station.
So you're talking about going to the top of the hill to the intersection of Route 6 and Sanford Road?
Yes.
Yeah, that's another option, yep.
So it goes gravity from the big pump station right by Borden Street.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a pitch
Yeah.
there, I was gonna say this.
And you could lay the force main and everything at the same time. The force main from the second pumping station, you could do all that work. But if you, let's say that we came up with 4 million, we couldn't get to 6 million, you know, just in pure grants, so we didn't have to have anything riding on the taxpayers, or grants in some commercial betterments or contributions. You know, it's possible that would make a logical stop, and that would allow a sewer extension down along the lake.
Bob, can I ask you just one basic question, because you know all this and I don't, and that is betterments. Because last year we were confronted with a complicated formula of EDUs, and one EDU for every dwelling unit, and then commercial EDUs were calculated as a multiple of that one EDU. If we were to do just a commercial betterment fee, is it calculated differently? Or can it be negotiated?
Well, I guess anything is possible, but we should have a standard, whatever the standard is to apply, so that everyone is treated.
So the Swansea betterment was a commercial betterment. Do we know what formula they used?
I don't.
It may have been residential as well, they just don't have a lot of residential.
Well, in the Route 6 area of Contract 1, I think there are only like, what, 6 or 7 houses? There's,
I think we should look at their town meeting on how they got this.
yeah, okay. Yep, okay, good.
Because one of the other things with this, you know, as we're moving forward and not wanting, so you're gonna have a developer stop, you know, we'll have a move forward to get a shovel-ready project, and we wanna be moving forward at the same time, so that, because one of the other things, when this went out to bid last time, and I had spoken to some of the guys that bid it, the pump stations are a 2-year deal, to get them, you know, by the time they order the parts and have
Yeah.
everything there, once you lock in and you're going with it, it's gonna take 2 years to complete the pump stations. So, moving, you know, the trunk line, you know, wherever you can come gravity out of it, I mean, moving the first pump station would be ideal. Whatever money we had, we should rebuild the pump station at White's. And then we can seek monies the other ways, to get that done. I mean, I think if we were to commit to build the pump station at White's and said, you know, like I said, Bristol Pacific was looking what it was gonna cost them to run the line from that distance to Borden Street, you know, most definitely, if we left the pipe in the middle of the intersection of Borden Street, they'd take it into where they need to go.
Yeah.
And that would get it close to the pond in the backside too, so.
And there may be some other options we had discussed with the previous community utilities and Fall River director about utilizing White's pump station for a small amount of flow.
Yeah.
So it might be possible to put some gravity in, you know, between White's and Sanford Road, and with limited connections, use the existing pump station there
Now, yeah.
for now.
Do they have excess capacity at that pump station?
At the time, they seemed to think they did. It's never been fully analyzed,
Yeah.
but,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's something to look at. The other,
It's small and it's not new.
I think they
We-
just,
we looked at it.
didn't they upgrade it?
they
the
upgraded it
hotel?
probably about 5 or 6
With the-
years
When
ago.
they did the hotels, they upgraded
And
it.
you've looked at it since then, yeah?
Yep, we did.
The other thing just to be aware of is that the pump station is expensive to run, whether you got 10 gallons going in or you got a few thousand. So
Right.
if we only have a few gallons going into that pump station, we would have to compensate, or we would have to supplement the funding just to run that pump station.
So that, the pump station now, White's pays 100% on that.
Pay 100%.
Yeah, it serves only their property.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some other stuff tied in there. The force main going up, Sam Shapiro's property, I tied that in way back in the, like, probably when White's first got put in. So I know that.
I think there's a couple of connections, you're right, that tie into that force main, but they,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're pumping directly up. I don't think that comes, it doesn't come gravity back to White.
Right,
So they,
yeah. Yeah, everything on that line.
In a meeting, call
pumps
you
into a
back.
Force main.
So I think it's definitely worth exploring all of these.
So can we determine how much capacity they have and what they have? Sorry.
I think during all the design work, all that
I
was
think
done. Have all that
I think Kleinfelder has looked at that. We know what that pumping capacity is.
there's limitations, but if it's minimal flow, it may be
Okay.
taken.
Yeah.
That's good.
I see pipe in the road for the water project.
Yeah,
Murray
Yes.
was all excited, filled our phone up.
yeah, I took a picture and sent it around to you.
Why didn't
that
you take a picture of the sign, Maury, that's up there? That's the one that we needed to get. Everybody's calling about the sign. What's the sign say?
What, said, do not enter?
No,
The road's blocked, Osborne's blocked.
I had to take a picture of it after everybody started calling me. Let me see what.
Okay, well, you didn't send it to me.
I meant to, but I didn't.
Okay.
Project funded by President Joe Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, investing in America.
There you go.
Look at that, huh? That would have been nice with your pipe over there. Because
Well, where is that? It's right on Route 6 or where?
it's right in front of the Macomb.
Oh, it's right in front of the Macro
Once
School.
again, when we were in front of the town meeting, and we're trying to say, how the planning board's in favor, this is why we went moving forward with this design, because this is what we were told, get a shovel-ready project.
Yep.
And we did that. We did.
Well, this PFAS project is a very rare thing. It's a funded mandate. I've never heard of a funded mandate.
Well, one of the things with that, I met with Paul Ferlin, the Director of Infrastructure in Fall River,
Yeah.
several times on some other stuff in the city in the last few weeks, and we've been discussing some of this stuff, and one of the things he said is this PFAS regulation on the drinking water is one thing. He said, but what's coming down the line now is the sewage discharge. We're gonna start regulating PFAS in that, and that's gonna be a big problem. That's gonna, and that's
Water.
what's happening with Title V is, the PFAS in the septic systems.
What is happening with these things?
They're not charged enough?
Left out, so they died, so I'm just kind of cycling them as I can.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Take mine for now,
There
take mine for now.
Too.
you go.
Okay,
Did
thank
you
you.
get his permit to work on 6? Does anyone know?
They have not gotten their
That's
permit
been
yet.
out.
We're still going through that process. We're hoping we get a preliminary permit to let them do a couple more borings and a test pit over the aqueduct in January, and then the additional permit for the rest of Route 6, we're hoping, we'd like to say February, but no promises on that.
So who's been working on that with Mass Highway, Roger?
Roger, myself, Kleinfelder, we had a meeting last week with Mass Highway. They finally met with us
In person, they met with you?
on Zoom.
Right.
Everything they like to do is through their CHAPS program or the SHOPS program, and
Yes.
they don't like to.
So you had something outside of shops then?
We did. Yeah, it took a lot.
Was
to
that
get done.
recorded, that meeting?
Good question, I don't know. It was, they set it up so they would have had the recording.
Could you have Roger forward me all the comments on shops about this permit? And if that meeting was recorded, please forward it to me so I could review it.
I wouldn't have the recording, but we can get the comments from shops.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if they reach out to Mass Highway, if it was on Zoom, they had to record it, so I'd like to, if I could get that so I can just kind of see what the issue is.
Yeah, they've been working on that permit for four or 5 months now.
And this is the utility access permit.
This is utility access permit, yeah. And what's changed recently, there were two things that held it up. One was the blow-off valve. I don't think they've run into that before, where you're blowing off clean water and going into their drainage system. They're gonna require a separate permit for that, a drainage, some type of drainage permit. So they're working on that. And then the other one was, they had originally shown on the design plans that they were gonna dig under the two culverts. The bread and cheese is two
Yep.
culverts about 200 feet apart. Mass DOT said you can't, you have to do directional
Directional
drilling.
drill under both.
So Kleinfelder,
I don't know why that was, because right from every time we were talking in design, it was always talking about boring under that. There was no way that, and when I spoke with Diggett, they told me that they had planned on doing that all along. Boring under it, and they included that in what they were doing, so.
but then Mass DOT wanted it in their permit. The first few times it was reviewed, that was not an issue. The last time it was reviewed back in October, November, we got comments on that. So what we're scheduling, we need a Mass DOT permit to do the borings that are required by Mass DOT for the directional drilling.
Has
Right.
Diggett had their subcontractor look at that yet?
They have, they met with Kleinfelder, Roger, to kind of go over what was required. Kleinfelder was originally looking to do directional drilling closer to the surface, but they felt the material was not good enough, so they're recommending that we go through the bedrock, which is 40, 50 feet deep. So we are now in the process of working with Mass DOT to use the aqueduct to slip line the pipe through the aqueduct that's already under those two culverts. We've met with.
How far is the aqueduct under the culvert now?
I don't think it's that far under. I don't know exactly, but it's probably,
Mass Highway has they have a design in place for that new culvert already?
not that I'm aware of.
I mean, that might be a question that we ask, because I know they were out there surveying that a few years back, so I believe they might have something. I mean, did also, when Diggett had the boring subcontractor, did they look at what they thought going under 88 would be? Heading towards?
No, we don't have that yet.
Okay.
So anyway, right now, we're looking at slip lining the aqueduct, which would make things pretty easy if we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Fall River's giving us the okay to use it. So we're moving on that. So when they're gonna do two borings, one on either side of the culvert. We already have one in the middle, and they're gonna do a test pit over the aqueduct and drill a hole in the top of it and put a camera down it just to,
What material is that made of?
I have that. It's like concrete, it's concrete, some reinforcement, but it's a different type of pipe. There's a company in Springfield that made it. We have the specs on it if you want a copy of that.
I'm just curious. I mean, what year was it installed, do you know?
I think the 40s.
Oh, so not that
Yeah,
old.
it's not, it is in the 40s. I think when they did repairs to the dam, or or I should say, when the dam at Nokochoke Lake, when the Mass DOT widened route, took the curve out by the old Lincoln Park, and they made a bigger sweep there. There was a very sharp angle originally, and the new layout worked on top of the dam. I think that pipe got reconfigured in there, so it's at least, and that stuff was in the, I don't know, I saw some drawings of the dam, it's in the 38 or something like that, and went through, so it's just probably in the early 40s.
Question I got. On the Route 6, you said it yourself.
Go to the microphone,
Yeah.
so.
And I think it's pressure concrete pipe.
Yeah.
Are we staying with the two-lane traffic? Did the state get the okay to continue their engineer work?
As far as I know, they haven't done any additional engineering work out there. I checked a couple of months ago and there was no work.
Yeah, I seen them out there maybe about 5 weeks ago, flagging all the manhole covers out. They got orange, yellow arrows pointed towards every one of them. So I know they're definitely in progress of locating those by satellite. That's why he marked the ground. So I know the state's, the last time I spoke to her, she was at a .5. They call it a .25 to keep, be complete. She said she was waiting for, suggestions for the town as far as, and Steve, you made a comment too, we're getting some new sidewalks up there. And
Bike route.
So, is that on both sides of sidewalks, or is that single side,
Well, both sides are supposed to be adapted to do it, but I think it's gonna be wider heading toward Dartmouth, last I knew. The other side.
Because after they had gotten the okay from the town as to what plan, we were here, and they made a couple of, options for us, whether we wanted to go down the single lane or double lane. They told us, Sanford Road, that was getting cut down, and Lincoln Park, the White's curve is getting straight, Lincoln Park is gonna be straightened out, and so that was just on a regular go. Then we had an option, whether we were gonna go down to single lane or double lane, and after she had gotten the approval from the town as to what road we decided we were gonna go with, then they can go about getting the funds to get the job done. So the last time I spoke to her was a couple of months back. She was waiting on the town to give it a green light as to which direction we're going in. After that, she can get the engineer work complete.
And
and
who is that?
Proceed for funding.
Who is that?
Lisa Estrella from the
Lisa.
Transportation States Department.
So Lisa works for Serpent. She works for the Regional Planning Agency, and they were doing a planning, a conceptual type planning process to see what the town wanted and what the residents and businesses could benefit on that. But this hasn't progressed to the design process with Mass DOT.
Gotcha,
Serpent was kind of a separate agency overlooking and kind of doing a conceptual of the area.
gotcha. But they are out there doing work. They're flagging manhole covers now,
Yeah.
But I believe they're waiting for some input from the town itself, So.
Yeah, we haven't been asked to do anything.
Yeah, on Serpent,
I'll
we
check
didn't
with
hit
Lisa
it.
Estrella again, but she's usually pretty good at following up, and I'm not aware of them waiting on us, but it's good, I'll check.
The bike path stuff, Steve,
Going for a grant. I don't know if I'm gonna be able, bike committee's tomorrow night, and there's also transportation meeting at Cork or whatever it is in New Bedford. So I don't know if I'm gonna make it to bike, but, no, they got the grant with Boris's help. But I don't think we have the final plans yet. She's gonna give us more info tomorrow night. So by the end of the week or by the next selectman meeting, we should have more
when are
info.
they looking to break ground on that?
We don't have a set date yet. If you want, well, Michael, if you could try email, I got an email back, because I was trying to get an update today, but he's out until next week. I don't know if he'll be able to give you an update, but he'd probably know better than I do on the grant status. He worked with our bike committee to do it.
Well, my only concern with that is the infrastructure sewer that we're still looking
Right.
to do in that area. We don't want the bike path.
Oh, no, exactly. That's what I've said right from the beginning, especially like in front of Ralco, where we've got to do something for walking from there to the corner. Once you get up to Eddie's place, it widens out a little, and in front of the bank, there's a sidewalk. But from there, all the way to the corner, we have to do something. That's what stopped the bike path from going in the first place. I wasn't gonna sign off on going to a corner with no place to go at all.
Because that's why Swansea put the manholes in that intersection after the Venus, because they already had the contract. Mass Highway had the contract to redo that intersection,
Yeah,
and they added that section of sewer and stuff in that Pacella's contract to get it in.
all right. But Michael Burrows could probably get us updated, if not in between, when he gets back on the status.
We ready?
Yes,
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. So going forward, right, we have a number of different funding sources. We have ARPA funding, we have PFAS funding, we have earmarks, and we're trying to coordinate those. Each one of those funding sources can only be used for specific things. Some can be used to tie in services, others can only be used to tie in services if it has PFAS or manganese over the EPA limits. So we are somewhat limited as to how we can spend the money going forward. We have of 3.6 under contract right now, and we had to use the 2 ARPA funds in that first 3.6, but ballpark, we have about 1.5 remaining.
Thanks.
That has not specifically been allocated, but out of that 1.5, we have 250 we're putting aside for contingencies for the existing contract. We're looking, or we're proposing to do service connections, about $300,000, water meters, $60,000, and the extension on Route 6 would be $200,000. The service connections and the water meters, we would like to kind of put a program out. We've done some preliminary work, we're gonna get that to you guys, on a letter sending to the residents. In order for this to work, you know, the more customers that we can get tied in, the better off we're gonna be, the more sustainable the system is gonna be. So if we can incentivize them to tie in within the first year, by paying for the service in the meter, that may work. We can also use, I mean, I attended a meeting today with the PFAS, with DEP. They said we can use PFAS funding to do water testing in residential and commercial properties. So if we do the water testing, if they allow us to do water testing on their property, and it comes up high on the PFAS or the manganese, then we can use the PFAS money to tie them in as well. So,
Can we, how do we get that out to the people to, like, we should be moving forward with that, like now, all the people on Route 6, where this water main's going.
yeah, it's, takes time, right? So they've worked on a draft. We've been working with Diggett, because we have to do a change order with them, and get them to agree to do the additional work, to get them to agree to do the tie-ins. Roger's been working with them, I've been working with them. We've negotiated a preliminary change order. Any services that they do, they want time and materials, essentially, they want a day rate as opposed to per unit cost. And the day rate is probably gonna be around $10,000, which means they could, you know, probably get 2 services in a day if they're reasonable services.
I had spoke to him on that too, on what we could do, because looking at their contract, they pennied the services, so when you had said that, we're looking to add that to them, so I knew they didn't have an item really, because they were just looking at what they were gonna make on the main line going in, and they pennied. It's kind of a tactic that they use. So, one of the things that he said was he could, and our problem is we gotta commit this money, so that's why we wanna commit it into Diggett's contract.
Yep.
But one thing he did say is he could subcontract it through him. And where we have no drain layers or anything in town, I think when you get the public wanting to tie in, a mechanism we might be able to use is with a plumber, like a local plumber, that will pull a permit to do the job and do all the piping work, and then they could sub the excavation work, and it can be run through Diggett. And that might help the residents like immensely. Like, you know, we have a lot of local plumbers, and that they pull the permit, because you gotta work inside the house too, so you need a plumbing permit. So if you get a plumber, you know, and he subs the excavation, you know, everybody's gonna have their insurance, and they'll go right through Diggett. So that might work where we could get these cheaper than $5,000 a piece. I know that would happen, you know, like we're looking to do the Macumber and tie the Macumber in. I mean, you know, I've already had a couple of plumbers in town say, hey, how do we, you know, we'd like to bid that job. You know, so, and if Diggett's willing to work with us in that direction, I think that would be a huge saving to the customers.
It is difficult because we need to commit the money, right? So we don't have the luxury of going out to bid.
But I think have Roger ask them that, because he did say that to me.
We sat with them.
Yeah.
Their solution or their willingness was to do it per day. He was willing to look at a subcontractor. If he can get a subcontractor to do the work, I think that's an option.
And I think the plumber being the subcontractor, a plumber would be the best, just because of the other permit that we need inside the people's houses. And then if it's a local guy, these residents that are already skittish, you know, we might be able to entice them that way.
So right now, we'd be looking for Diggett to install the service connection, put it through the foundation, and then the homeowner would be responsible for that. We would pay for the meter as well, but the homeowner would have to do his own plumbing in the house.
Now, suppose we committed, so there would be no way to commit that ARPA money, to have a local plumber do it without going through Diggett. Diggett's bringing it to the property. I just think,
So this is one of the issues.
$5,000.
The ARPA money I had to obligate in September, so we put that towards this first contract.
I think we should probably then concentrate on that money on running some of these other little side streets with the main. The best bang for the buck.
So what we're looking at right now, if we do the services, we put about 360 into the services, and we extend that one section on Route 6, we'd have about roughly $600,000 to do additional work. And I think those numbers are conservative. We could very easily have 800 or 900 by the time we get there. But Diggett is gonna be looking for work relatively soon, probably mid to late January. Because they will have Gifford Road and Osborne Street done, and I don't think Route 6 will be ready.
Well,
So-
that's good.
So if we can,
You know, there is another potential loop, you know, the stub here in Briggs. You know, if we did the Sanford-Briggs loop, which is a big loop, but, you know, that brings in another, you know, down the Sanford Road corridor, there's another, you know, dense population area, both directly on Sanford Road, but all the small stubs that run into Sanford. And that would bring water down along, you know, the potential for water down along South Watupper as well. So, in that loop, you know, making that other big loop and tying it back into Briggs, that would create a couple of very big loops up in the north end of town, right in the big population areas.
But that would cost more than 600, 800,000.
It's,
The other thing is, I think we should, in that area, we should be looking to try to get some more grant money for that, because we've identified it in some of the residences, we've identified it in the church, and we've
yeah,
identified it
in
Briggs
the
Fire
state,
Station.
in the state infrastructure bond bill, you know, there's, not only should we look for money for the sewer, but also for water, particularly if it is a continuation of other spending.
Senator Roderick says it's specifically Route 6, though. He told me that personally.
Well, that's
Yeah,
because
well,
that's
that's
phase one,
his-
and they
his-
wanna get it built, yeah.
Right.
so what I could use from this committee, a recommendation or some guidance as to what would be the first option you'd look at. I think there's three. I think you have East Briggs Road between Route 6 and Gifford Road. You have East Briggs Road between Gifford Road and the fire station on the other side of 88. And then you have, you know, 3 streets around Greenwood, which, I don't know all the names of the streets. I think it's Pleasant Street. Is it Pleasant Street?
Pleasant's on the other side of me. Glenwood,
Glenwood, yes.
Oakland's down a little, but yeah, it's that Glenwood neighborhood.
So those
Goes
are
into
probably
Arlington.
one of those 3 would be.
Alvaro, I've had 3 people on that street already wanna tie in. And one of the things about that one is, so the Cozy Nook bringing in from Route 6, back when they built that building 20 years ago?
Yep.
And that's the location, it's a dead-end line, and that's the location that we're testing out of. And they continually inconvenience them on doing the testing, but I don't think it's the best location to be testing the water at the dead end. And if we loop that into Gifford when it went by, so there are 3 people that would tie in immediately.
On Zelmira?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not really super dense housing, but it's another loop, so makes sense.
Well, and the water quality at the Nook, you know, I mean, where you're testing, that's what you wanna do, you wanna loop all of them in that way, so that we don't need to have a blow-off at the other end. I mean, if we tied it all the way into Dartmouth, we kind of eliminate the blow-off, you know, on the extension of the main down there, so that might be another thing that we're looking at.
Doing that leg to the fire station, there's only about 5 or 6 houses in that street. There isn't, there are not many customers there. Brings water to the fire station, which is a good thing. If you did that as a piece of future loop, that would make sense.
That would be the thought, right? You would start to get it closer to the area that we'd know we have PFAS contamination, but
Yep.
it's still quite a ways away.
It is.
you know. East Briggs Road has the most houses, but the question is how many houses are gonna tie in?
They really should, because the septics are all close there, and that's on the
Yes.
side, they'll tell you there's an issue, but they don't want it to be public. Well, actually, one person went public, Gail Rodrigues went public.
Did it test bad, the water up that way? Did it test for PFAS in that neighborhood?
There really hasn't been much. The only wells that are required to be tested are the public water supply wells. So like if you have a
Yeah.
Cozy Nook, it doesn't have one now because they're tied into the well, but you have some apartment buildings, you have a school.
Schools,
So
church.
those have been tested. None of the private wells that I'm aware of, they haven't reported to us anyway, have been tested for PFAS.
Because I know Vinnie Majewski made a statement, he's got, down at his complex over there, got a wonderful septic system, but the water's no good.
It's down there, Prestige, is he talking
Steve,
about down there? Prestige?
Steve made a very good,
Majewski on the corner there, right near Lincoln Park.
a very good point of, running in these small lot dense neighborhoods, of getting them tied to the water so that, these lots, and we know that there are still many non-Title V conforming systems up there. The lots are just too small, and people's wells are right on top of their septic systems.
Even when they install the denitrification system, it's still not
Yeah.
compliant to Title V, because the lots.
So, I think there's a real public health benefit if we could get people to tie in those dense neighborhoods.
They need both sewer and water. The lots are so small, they need both.
Yep,
So then you're probably looking at two areas, either East Briggs Road between Gifford and Route 6, or the Greenwood type area, neighborhood. It'd be easy if we knew that, 15% or 50% of the houses were gonna tie in. but
right, if the,
I think what's gonna happen, because the people that I've talked to, again, a lot of them, they can't afford, if the well dies, they can't afford to do it anyway, but they can't afford another bill, and they're worried, but when something, if the stop is in front of them, and then they start seeing people tying in without a cost, they're tying in. I mean, if your well pump lets go, it's, I don't know what a well pump today is, but it's probably a couple grand.
it is,
to
at
do
least a
the
couple.
well pump. So, never mind the whole new well. I mean, I've seen some up on Plymouth Boulevard, I saw them charge 18,000 on a lot by the time they got a good well.
And we've also, you've been working with Fall River on adjusting the rates, and getting a lower rate, all that's to the good, so, I mean, the town has really been doing some good work in this area.
Can I just say something? From the gathering, everybody's doing the best they can do. I can clearly see that, especially with the funding you have and all. But in reality, has anyone talked directly to the state as far as, are they gonna mandate us to do anything? Because,
Sorry, are they going to mandate what?
are they gonna mandate us to put sewer right down the whole Route 6? In other words, make us pay for it?
How long, 10 years? How long we got that?
Right,
yet.
right now, there's no mandate.
Not yet.
Right now, there's no.
Is there any,
It's in limbo for what, 10 years or something?
Well,
It depends on the Cape.
it depends on when they finish the Cape.
Yeah.
What happened in those meetings when they came to talk to us?
Yeah.
So I sat through many of those meetings, and the thing, when they looked at us, we were doing the right thing. We had the integrated water plan, we were doing the sewer design. So they didn't want us, what was it called, what did they want? They wanted you to have a water management permit
Right.
with the state, which we didn't want to be hooked into that at all. So when they looked at us, It's okay, you're doing what you're supposed to do. We'll see you in a little while, we're a little busy down the Cape, and we're gonna come back and knock on your door, and, you know what?
Because,
And that's why we need to at least try to get one contract going, so we can keep them from,
yeah, because at this point, you know, at this minute, we don't have anything. But what I'm thinking about is say like when Mike comes back with 2, okay, that 2's got to be spent along 6, you know? And then we want to stop the water line 3/4 of the way down. And then afterwards, okay, we have sewer, you know, 10,000 feet, and we've got water 16,000 feet. You know, it sounds confusing. And so what I'm thinking is if there's any leftover money, and it's got to be spent on 6, and it is left over, continue the water line. This way you can actually say, yes, the water line's installed down a trunk line. That's all I'm thinking.
and another thing I'd like to know too is being involved in looking at the study and everything else. You know, when back in the day, they were talking, we had to put a standpipe and all this other stuff. So now I'm looking at the reports when Kleinfeld come down, we're actually building pressure going down, we gotta put relief valves. So we no longer, we don't have to put a standpipe, and we're building more pressure by the time we get to the line.
The, Jim, the idea of not losing the contractor, you know, if we have the money to, you know, to do this, and the contractor, you know, finishes the work he has and looking for more work, I definitely think we should keep him going and spend the money. We have to commit the money.
We wanna keep him going because when he bid the job, there was money left on the table because he wanted the job.
Right.
And I, you know, like I said, I had spoke to some of the other contractors that bid on the sewer contract. So Diggett told me the money, he's loaded up with contracts down the Cape now when this happened. So he's got a ton, in his hometown, he's got a ton of work out that way. So we do want to take advantage of the cost that we have here and get as much of this done
So,
as we can.
you know, I think the best thing we could do is to try to help the most people we can by running streets in the most dense areas and making those loops.
Okay. So, East Briggs, or do we do the Oakland Street area? East Briggs has 26 houses, the Oakland Street area has 24.
The Oakland, option 2, Oakland Loop seems to have the most houses, doesn't it?
The East Briggs is 20, they're about the same, 26
Yep.
and 24.
Okay.
And the 24 one may be, you know,
Yeah.
like 20, because they might be able to tie into the line they're already putting in.
So East Briggs is 2 more houses and $50,000 cheaper. Yeah, so, yeah, East Briggs, I guess.
Are they willing to tie in on East Briggs? We had a crew that was supposed to head out there a couple of weeks ago. Did that info return?
We did not, we got the letters drawn up, but we have not sent them out yet.
Right, so I think before you make any curves or anything like that, I think you should probably speak to the property owners. Because I've spoken to a few of them, and they said they didn't want nothing to do with the water line. They said their water's fine. I said, did you test it? Nope, and they're not willing to test it either.
I will say the feedback we're getting from the inspector and the contractors out there is not an overwhelming desire to tie into the water.
Right.
But if there's an incentive to do it, you know, if you
When
can save
some of them
$5,000
start, they still probably believe that they're gonna somehow be charged for this, so, and that, you know, we're still trying to negotiate the rates that, like, in 2017, I mean, one of the problems we had is because we're probably paying 3 times what we needed to pay in water, because we didn't renegotiate the contract, because we owed the city money. So that's probably like the first thing to do, is let's get that squared away, so that we know what the water bill's gonna be, and that we're not being charged what the water should be, because we're not in compliance.
So the question I have there is, you know, again, between the East Briggs option and the Oakland Loop option, there's 26 homes in one of them, 24 homes in the other, 50 homes. Should we do a survey of those 50 homes to see where the interest in tying in might be stronger?
I don't think we're gonna have time to do it.
Yeah,
Huh?
I don't think we're gonna have time to do it. So at the January
to know by-
6th, at the January 6th meeting of the select board, I'd like them to sign the change order. Now, if Diggett is willing to push back their timeline, or if the weather gets bad, maybe we get some more time, but they're gonna be looking for work mid to late January.
I think.
So those three houses that would tie in, are they, that you mentioned?
That's on our, well.
Are they either
That
East
That was
Lyme
on
or
our Val
Oakland?
Road.
Huh?
The one on the side of Nook, those are the people that reached out to me already. I haven't talked, but one of the things that we
There's
gotta.
some- I can't understand you, Manny, sometimes. Is it East Briggs or Oakland? Either of
No,
those?
it's not.
Zolmira, where
Zolmira
Arthur
Drive.
lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zolmira,
Arthur's one of the ones that'll tie in.
right.
Who?
Arthur's
Arthur.
one of the ones that'll tie in.
Who's Arthur?
The sign guy. You
Sign
dealt
guy.
with him.
Oh, does he live in Westport?
He lives
Right there.
Oh. I've only seen him in
He
Fall
lives
River.
next door to Nook.
Oh, he does, okay.
Uh,
Okay, so that's Briggs
Jim, I
Road.
think,
My concern with that, Jim,
So that's Briggs Road, man,
is
right?
they're not getting a lot of good feedback. However, so when you look at those dense neighborhoods, we know what the situation is there. And it's not Title V compliant. Now, when you put the water main in there, now you have, they don't have to get waivers for setbacks from septics, and with their septics there. So, that might even help some of
If they're connected to the water. Well, Elmira is the next road
know
over
that.
from
Okay,
East
thank
Briggs,
you.
right?
Zolmira Drive, yeah, there's only a couple of houses on that,
Yeah.
4 or 5 houses.
But it's another water quality loop.
I think just purely from the hydraulics engineering, doing the East Briggs, reinforces the loops, all of that's to the good for the way the system operates. And we're having the potential to serve those houses, whether they think they need it or not.
So we'll plan on moving ahead with East Briggs? Is that,
That would be my vote.
okay,
Okay, yeah,
You want a motion
I can
for
see
that?
the merit
yes,
there.
we can get a motion.
We'll make a motion to move forward with the East Briggs loop.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
So we kind of talked about this already, but this is the service connections. It's normally the town's responsibility to install a main and then install a service to the property line where we put a service valve, right? So we can shut off the water at that point. So with our existing water line, that is what the town owns, that's what the town's responsible for. Normally, from that point on, once it hits the property line, it's the property owner's responsibility. And it'll be their responsibility whether the town pays to install that service connection or not. So we are going to, as long as it's okay with the committee, we'll send out, we're working on a draft now, we're getting close, but a letter to the property owners saying that if they tie in within 12 months of, we'll give them a specified date, and they agree to tie into the water line, then the town will install the service. At this point, we're looking at installing the service line into the foundation and providing the meter. They would have to get their own plumber to do the work on the inside. A couple of reasons for that. One is every house is plumbed differently. There's more liability once you get inside the house. So if they take ownership of that, I think it's going to be better for us. We may be able to, if they're willing to get their property tested and it comes up with PFAS or manganese, we may be able to provide some other incentive.
We might be able to get some additional grant money for that, like.
Maybe,
you got
yeah.
This PFAS stuff's coming down the
Yep.
pipe now, so.
And then just getting back to our existing contract, we got great prices on our existing contract. They came in about 30% lower than the next bidder. So any work that we can get done under this contract, we're saving some significant money, right? Where we may be able to do 1,000 feet of roadway under this contract, we're only gonna be able to do 500, 600 under a new contract. And so we really need to take advantage of that, and if we do East Briggs, we'll be doing that.
So you need a motion for the services?
Yes, to work on the services up into the foundation, we'd be spending up to about 300, right now, we allocated 360,000 for that.
I'll make a motion to use that $60,000 to provide service into the foundation of the residents that would like to hook in.
I'll second that.
Yep, there you go.
It's just Briggs Road.
Well, no, this would be all along Route
Everywhere.
6,
Anybody
Osborne,
with-
Gifford.
Not just.
Yeah, we're looking at about, I think, 94 residents. Now we'd be adding another 26, so maybe 130, and then 120. And then I think we had about 60 businesses, 50 or 60 businesses, so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have.
Jim, just a suggestion for the future, can we show about, we haven't really talked much about it all, the whole project, is the fire hydrants too. Just, can we show where those are, because that's an improvement to the neighborhood and might help with insurance. that they're
Yeah,
adding.
we can do that. You know,
It'd just be good to get to the public, hey, look, you know, we need to do, we need to get more positive stuff out there. You know, even if you don't connect, you might have a savings on your, even though we'd like them to connect.
Now, how about the town? I mean, you talk to our insurer also, you know, that we're getting.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. We'll do that with the Macomb School. We're
Correct.
actually getting 2 hydrants there. We're getting one on Osborne Street, and then the fire department requested one on Gifford, so we're going a little further south on Gifford to get a second hydrant in. And then there'll be a savings with the school as well. The cost that we'll be spending to pay for the water from Fall Rivers is significantly less than what we're doing now to maintain that public water supply. The filtration system, the wells, the tanks.
That's an excellent point, because one of the other things that I spoke with Tony Vieira's nephew at the VFW, and they have a system to treat the water, and he's worrying about the cost. And so you've done an analysis, and it's gonna be cheaper at the Macomb, but it's probably gonna be the same thing for him, because they're, you know, if we can convince them, you know, we'll provide the service into them, just like we're doing the residences, and it's gonna be cheaper for them to operate. I mean, just the testing alone.
Oh, I know, but we gotta get by that aqueduct first, the bread and cheese brook, while we still have some money, before it halts the project. Because like I said, I'd like to see a stub to Washington too, because you've got a lot of houses there that'd be nice to have at least hydrants. And then you got the plaza that have food services that would help them, so.
Well, this contract does bring the water in front of the VFW.
Yeah, but we gotta, if it doesn't kill us with the aqueduct.
We will get through that. I mean, it's just a
will
matter
for
of how
sure.
much it's gonna cost. You know, it's just a design
Yeah.
issue.
I really think, you know, when I spoke to dig it, you know, he had planned on boring under there, so if we're slipping into an aqueduct, I mean, that sounds like, I don't think he's gonna have much of an issue.
Whatever it takes, we just wanna keep moving. All right. Jerry? yeah.
I'd just add a couple of things here. My concern is sort of almost like town meeting. A lot of these people have their own thoughts about getting water or sewage. They listen to the rumors. The rumors, as we know, were not all true. In fact, there were some very damaging things that people were believing. And my concern is, from what I can read and hear, people are concerned, they don't have a water bill right now. They got a well, they don't think about it unless something goes wrong. Why do I want a water bill every month or every quarter? Many don't like the idea of the quality of Fall River water. Many don't like the idea of having chemicals put in their water by a public system, whereas their well doesn't have that. My concern is that if we don't educate these people to the facts, not what they hear or read on social media, I have a concern about their willingness or desire to tie in to some of this, and then it might make it much more difficult for us. So I'm just wondering, is there some way that we can counter all these falsehoods with facts, with someone, you know, who knows what they're doing and what they're talking about, and anyway, I don't know. I'm thinking like either a meeting like we held at the Macomb School, where people would
who live in it, directly involved, would come and we could answer them there, or you were just talking a minute ago about, well, maybe you might get a reduction in your insurance. Well, maybe you might, but could we find out a little more factually?
Break down the water bill too.
Yeah.
Know what the amount is.
Right,
what the-
that type of thing. Is there some format? I'm concerned about just a letter going out to them, and they're gonna, I don't want water in the
Yeah,
trash
so-
can.
so the-
Anyway, that's my general concern about it.
Well, the owner of Ralco came to our June meeting and said we have to put together a group of citizens who will get out there, and you need 50 people who will go to 10 more people and get 500 people and stuff the town meeting. I mean,
Well, would
I just don't know whether we can do that.
Rainey be willing to work with us on that?
He's in Florida most of the
So-
time. But see the bulletin board behind you up there, it says the town will pay the service line to foundation. That right there is $1 million words right there, and none of them even know that out there. And so just that shot that you see right there, sent to a poster to the nearby services that will be available to them. If they could get that look right there, that would assure them definitely they would be more interested in hiring.
It's, and the water quality, like we all grew up on well water, right? And we like our well water, and, you think about this. But the uncertainty of your well at your house should be a concern. The water department in Fall River, they're required to put out a report on the quality.
Yes, they are.
That they do this, I don't know if they do it a couple times a year. So they're required to give it to all of their customers. So they give that report to us, the town.
Well, we have a water,
We have never given that report to our customers.
we have a water enterprise fund. We've never given that report to them? No, okay, well,
Yeah, you
Check with
did.
Denise.
We
I
did.
believe we send that
we
out.
we put it in the bills,
We
don't
sent it
we?
with the water bill a couple of
Yeah.
times.
So, I think Jerry brings up
We
a
have
good
done.
point, right? Maybe we do have a meeting over at the MACCom, but we invite the people that are abutting the lines that we're putting in, and we explain this to them and answer their questions. Rather than sending them out a mailing and try to explain it in the mailing, they can ask their questions. We can tell them what the approximate costs are. We can tell them what the single family, we get $500 to $800 a year, depending on how much water you use. The water that's coming into Westport from Fall River is not only tested in Fall River, but it's tested by our public water supply operator a number of times a year. We have to meet quality standards, and if we don't, we get penalized and we have to put up notices out, and we've met those standards year after year, so, yeah,
And towns aren't doing this. This is
this is,
a big, benefit.
and we can also let them know at the meeting that they are not required to tie in. This does
Yep.
not cost them anything.
But if you need to.
If you
it's
need
there.
to, it's there, right? And at some point, if you have to put a new septic system in, it may be much cheaper to put a septic system in and tie into the town water than it is to put a septic system in, meet, maximum feasible compliance.
Right.
And put a well in, so, there's definite benefits in it.
If they never get sewer and the water line goes there, this is key for public health. No sewer doesn't help the environment, but this is key for public health, which I think should be our first concern.
And I think having that fact sheet in of having, the distance to fire hydrants, all of that stuff, if you're within 500 feet of a fire hydrant, that's a regular insurance question.
I'm just concerned about getting the facts to them and not the stuff that you're reading on social media.
Yeah,
Facts are fiction.
we gotta stop.
And the cost,
listening to
the
social
cost
media.
and savings of operating the individual system at the school. I know people, I've been in people's homes in the harbor that have, their wells are filled with salt water, and they have, a little under the sink desalinization plant. Some of them are in the basement, a bigger desalinization plant. And they're saying, drink the water, it's the most expensive drink we serve in this house.
Yeah.
But I think Randy said something pretty important, especially about East Ridge Road. The compliance and the lots are so small, if you had to put a new well and a new septic, it doesn't meet compliance to set them. So it's their lucky day or lucky night that the water line will run down there. At least if they're worried just about a septic system, they might be able to fit it on it.
Yeah, they'll still be able to do
Yeah, very
it, and,
important,
and,
right there.
and,
I don't know how lucky
they,
we are.
because they can't get the setback from the well, which is clear.
Right, the neighbors are right on top of one another, so it kinda is a musted that would run down East Briggs Road. I'd like to see it finish up Route 6, this way it can actually say, hey, we got a trunk line finished, you know?
And-
But
The other thing too is the thing about the testing for the PFAS, because I've never tested my well for PFAS, okay? I knew when I drilled my artesian well, it had manganese in it. I have a filtration system in my house. So I have a dug well on the other side of the property that we're moving forward to build a house for my daughter. Just had it tested. It's better than my artesian well that's on the opposite side of the Brent Cheese Brook. This one's on this side of Brent Cheese Brook. I have 3 abutters that have failed septics with that well. And I also read the report from Mass Highway on what's happening in Mass Highway. So these PFAS chemicals, they sink to the ledge, and they sit on top of the ledge and seep in. And in the report, it said it's migrating into the aquifer. So that's telling me, I'm looking at my dug well that just came out. The well guy says, I can't believe it. And he did the new well, and now he's testing this old well that was at the farmhouse, and he says, I can't believe it's better than your new well, the new well you drilled 6 years ago. So what's happening is the aquifer's getting contaminated, so that's where our problem's coming in. It's just like at the harbor, the well that they finally found is
Yep.
that type of well that's filtering through the soil. So these chemicals that settle to the bottom, that the forever chemicals, they're there. And, you know, there's other options to do it, but this is the safest.
So maybe we look at that instead of the 15th, maybe towards the end of January, we
Okay.
have a meeting out, and then we'll see if we can arrange that. We'll work with the chair and see if that's doable.
Okay.
I think that's a
Bob
good
said
idea.
something very important too, about as far as getting down, the other Briggs Road to make it to Sanford Road, where the church has problems. with
Yes,
the
it
water.
does.
My brother's well is no good over there, and we all got family members along that strip where they got problems too. And so getting it rather from 6 straight up to Sanford, or taking the Briggs Loop and bringing it up by a fire station and running it down that way, that's a good idea.
No, we've got some residents that have been in here on Route 6, and their well's 5 feet off Mass Highway. And so
Yep.
we know what's in that well. It's full of salt. So those people will tie in immediately. I know a couple of people, one's got a pipe coming from the neighboring house, because he owns both houses, into his other house, because he's got a well further back that's good.
They got problems down there.
I mean, some of these people aren't talking because they're afraid, and, you know, once they see it in front of them, I think we're gonna have a run on it. I mean, Jimmy, you had said that, if you had a water main going by your house, you'd
Oh,
tie right in.
And the water changes, right? I had a small filter system up until last year, and it took care of my well water, you know? But last year, the water changed, and now they're looking at $8,000 for a filter system, you know? So it's,
It is changing.
you know, it doesn't take much, you know? You draw too much, and all of a sudden it pulls from a different area, and it can go from good to bad. Go
Plus,
from
to
bad to
me,
good too, but
I would prefer to be using something that's being tested all the time. You know, like, even like when you look at the VFW, so they're testing when they have to test, but something happens in between.
The church somewhere along the line is gonna have to get addressed.
Yeah, it's gonna be some money. We haven't tested the other ones on we haven't even talked about 177 yet, so there's lots of areas that can be addressed. All right, we have anything else on this?
Okay.
Just to let Jerry know, maybe, if you want to let him know, on the item of business we did before he got here, we voted to go to, want me to tell him?
Yeah.
We moved to go to the selectmen on the chart at the bottom, where I'd be resigning, Manny would be the selectman rep, and then we'd bring in Evan Almeida from the back, he's on the highway department, as an at-large. That's what they're gonna go to the selectmen to vote for. So I'll probably resign once the selectmen, Jim, say they want to go with this plan, then I'll resign. If for some reason they don't want to, we'll have to figure it out. Okay, that's the game plan, Jerry? Okay. You ready for a motion to adjourn, or you got more? Did we hit that other thing on
We have
you?
new business.
Okay.
So,
Town engineer, yeah.
yeah.
Are we going to just rely on the letter to go out, or we're gonna try to do something?
I think we,
Do you want to go knocking on doors, Jerry?
I think we're gonna try and set up a meeting.
We'll try and do a meeting.
Towards the end of
I
January.
didn't hear any
Yep.
resolution
I
to
think the
that.
meeting would be the best idea.
There were
Yeah.
suggestions, but,
I think we should go for that.
so before we adjourned, I just wanna
Yeah.
be clear.
No,
where we
I think
go.
that's,
So, and I'd like to make a motion to put forward to the select board to post the town engineer position, that in town meeting, we had set aside money for the town engineer's position. And I think we should probably have it written up as that position to be called the Director of Public Infrastructure. The amount of money that we had there, I think if we put it that way, we could attract somebody that doesn't necessarily have to be a PE, but is qualified for that type of position. And some of the neighboring communities have done the same thing. It's like Four Rivers Town Engineer. He's not a PE, but he's fully qualified, and that's the way that was set up. He's as the Director of Public Infrastructure. So I'd like to make a motion to request that the selectmen fill or post the position of town engineer, that the money was set aside in the last town meeting.
Second.
Is there some reason we need to do that, or why we just don't do it as selectmen?
I think he's
I don't know, maybe to
recommending
push you along.
the selectmen do.
Yeah, all right, because I thought we were ready to go with it, I didn't know what the thing was. Okay, I mean, I have no problem with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6-0.
Before we adjourn, if you're not gonna be at another meeting, and I just wanted to, just personally, but I think it is a sense of the committee, to thank you for your leadership over the last 3 years.
Thanks, I
And-
appreciate it.
and
3 years, well, I think it's 27.
No, he's talking about this committee.
This committee,
the economic
this
development.
committee, and of course, you're working up.
Yeah, well, I'll speak for myself, because I've worked with Steve Willett for 20 years, going back to 2004, when he recruited me for the Economic Development Task Force. And so, for me personally, this is kind of an end of an era, because you've been promoted.
Yeah.
You've been promoted to our state rep for the 8th Bristol District to succeed Paul Schmidt, and I congratulate you for that, and I also thank you for the 20 years that I've worked with you.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And just so you guys know, going forward too, I'll be pushing in Boston for what the town pushes forward. I'm not gonna be my own little vigilante. You guys have to forward it to me, because to sell it, we have to show we've got the town supporting it. For those of you who don't know, Bob, I think you were in town at the time, we got all the money for a sidewalk right here, and then we ended up looking foolish because we had to give the money back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
definitely, the more support you can get from the town, I know we got a selling point, I know Jerry mentioned it, but that's how I can fight for it. Good part in Boston, have to sell it to 160, and you know who's there. It's not like town meeting, you can talk to everybody, might have to help without somebody else's bill, but, I can bargain, but everybody's gonna say is the town behind you, because, they don't wanna look
Yep.
foolish. So just so you guys know, you've been doing good, we just voted on a bunch of letters to go forward, so I think you know what you're doing, so let's just keep plugging and moving forward.
Plus the Southwood Tupper, now you're both sides of it.
Yeah.
So
But like I say, you need to push the letter, because if I go on my own, and we can't be looking foolish, so I need to say, hey, the town's behind me, Mike will back it, and we'll go, we'll do what we can do.
So we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.